You voted, and your voice has been heard.
And I will keep the faith on behalf of the great state of Florida and the wonderful people we have here. Thank you.
God bless every one of you. God bless our great country. Let's get to work.
Now, the 2018 midterm results, live from your First Coast election headquarters. This is Good Morning Jacksonville.
A big night for Republicans in the two biggest races here in Florida. We want to welcome you here to Good Morning Jacksonville on this Wednesday morning. I'm Keitha Nelson.
Keitha, I'm Lou. Early morning for those of you who stayed up late watching the returns. We've got a new governor elected and also a heated Senate race coming to an end with some big changes coming there that'll have national implications from right here in the state of Florida. So let us begin with the governor's race. Republican Ron DeSantis will be Florida's next governor, defeating his Democratic opponent, Andrew Gillum. Gillum conceding the race, getting strong support, DeSantis, from voters ranking immigration, the economy, and jobs as the number one priority in electing DeSantis. But let's do it by the numbers because it was very, very close. DeSantis winning by a small margin after more than 8 million votes were cast statewide, a percentage point separating the two. Now, comparing these numbers to the latest Quinnipiac poll, which really was something suspect. These were released on Monday, and polls are just polls, but take a look at the left columns. All right, these are the actual poll numbers, having Gillum with some 7-point lead on Monday. But with your actual results here, 50-49, DeSantis pulling out the victory. So don't put all those stock in those poll numbers when you're thinking about going and voting. Let's talk Senate now, because huge national implications. Rick Scott will be moving from Florida's governor's mansion to the Senate in Washington, D.C., pulling off the victory over longtime incumbent Democratic Senator Bill Nelson. Let's remember that, a Republican taking a Democrat's seat. Though by percentage, it is a 50-50 tie, but just about 50,000 votes separate the two. Bill Nelson conceding very late in this race. A lot of change happening. Now, voter turnout, something to talk about, because it was very big, especially considering a midterm and non-presidential election year. All right, let's take a look. Clay County, 61% turnout. Compare that to 63% in Duval, really showing up, and it just goes up from here. 66% in Nassau, and take a look, St. Johns County, 70% voter turnout. They really did show out to the polls. All right, but in Georgia, still nothing really decided yet, though if you look at the numbers, check it out. Both Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp addressed their supporters overnight, and the race has not officially been called. However, Kemp is in the lead right now.
Here in Florida, the race is decided. First Coast News was there as Republican nominee Ron DeSantis gave his victory speech. On your side, Shelby Danielson. She's live in Orlando this morning with much more. Good morning, Shelby.
Hey, Keitha, good morning. Just as Lewis was describing how close that race was last night, both for Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, I can tell you that he says he knows a lot of people out there who obviously were for Gillum. He wants to make amends with them. Even if people spoke out against him, he wants to reach across the aisle and he wants to make it work. He also says he wants to leave all of those political campaigns, any of the nasty war words that were exchanged over this election season. He wants to leave that behind. He wants to move forward. He says what's happening now is just a transition period, but he named two top priorities as he becomes the governor of Florida. And the number one is making those 3 Supreme Court justice nominations. He says they will be smart, they will follow the Constitution, and he says they will be ones who will apply the law and not want to rewrite the law. The other top priority he mentioned is the environment, something he says the president will work with him on for Florida.
Really getting us on a strong track on the water quality and the environment. So we'll be taking action very quickly. I've talked to the president about this. He understands it. He cares about Florida. And I told him that, some of this infrastructure needs to get going.
I want to encourage you not to give up. I want to encourage you to stick to the fight. I want you to know that every step of this way, even though I won't have the blessing of serving as the next governor of the state of Florida, I still plan to be on the front lines right alongside every single one of you when it comes to standing up for what it is that we believe in.
And you heard that concession speech from Andrew Gillum. All of those final results just coming in around 11:30, just before midnight last night. DeSantis says he called Gillum, of course, to congratulate him on a well-run race and, of course, wished him well in the future as he now moves forward. Reporting live in Orlando, Shelby Danielson, First Coast News, on your side.
A couple of weeks ago, I sat down with Casey DeSantis as things continued to heat up on the campaign trail. We spoke about everything from attack ads to the congressional baseball game shooting in 2017 when she feared the possibility of losing her husband, Ron DeSantis. I also asked her about the many possibilities ahead, including possibly becoming the next First Lady of the state of Florida. Take a listen. Casey, has it sunk in as yet that you could possibly be the next First Lady of the state of Florida?
Well, let me just say that would be an honor. It would be very humbling, and it's something that I, when I think about it, the number one thing, I think if I'm so fortunate and blessed to be able to have that very unique opportunity, I would want to make the people of this state proud.
You can watch Casey's full interview online right now on our website at firstcoastnews.com.
So another interesting thing to come out of the whole election, all 5 seats were that were open, state elected seats, I should say, did go Republican. Talking about, of course, DeSantis winning the governor's race. Governor Rick Scott now senator-elect. Ashley Moody won the attorney general's race. Jimmy Patronis, the CFO now for the state of Florida, will remain at least. And Matt Caldwell won the commissioner of agriculture race. All of those Republicans.
The record-breaking number of women on ballots across the country included Republican Marsha Blackburn, who was quick to thank voters for electing her the first woman ever to represent Tennessee in the United States Senate.
And just imagine this, it is a conservative woman to be.
In New York, Democrat Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez became the youngest woman elected to Congress at just 29 years old. In Massachusetts, Ayanna Pressley ran unopposed as a Democrat and became the first black woman to represent the Commonwealth in Congress. Voters are also infusing Washington with some new ethnic diversity. Democrat Ilhan Omar will serve as the nation's first Somali American congresswoman.
We are done waiting. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Let's get to work.
She'll be joined by Michigan Democrat Rashida Tlaib, also a Muslim and the first Palestinian American to serve Congress. Voters in Kansas chose Democrat Sharice Davids. She'll be the first Native American congresswoman. She's also a lesbian and was among a number of LGBTQ candidates, including Colorado Democrat Jared Polis, who will be the nation's first openly gay governor.
All right, a few sleepy eyes out there this morning, but we're going to wake you up because we got this gorgeous sunrise. You've already shown some of those great pictures, Kay.
It is beautiful out there.
Right, beautiful out there. And look at these temperatures. I got to show you this. We're waking up to some nice comfort. 67 in Jacksonville to St. Augustine, beautiful in Brunswick. A little fog, but as we look at the big picture, you got to go to Lake City for the thickest fog. As we look at our drive time weather, a little yellow light for the fog west of town. There's that sunrise, 646, and then the record heat. Yes, the heat wave goes on at least for one more day with that high of 87. If you're looking for fall weather, well, let's look at weather in an emoji where you see the green. That's nature's soup, the sultry weather for this time of year. But notice there's a lot of smiling faces not too far from home up toward Atlanta, Georgia, and that's moving our way in the 7-day forecast for the weekend. So we'll turn those looks like that to big smiles.
Well, if you stayed up late to watch the election coverage, maybe have an extra cup of coffee. I don't want you tired out there on the roadways. This is a look out here kind of towards 295 near where it meets, the Buckman Bridge, US 17. So a little slow out there this morning, just some congestion, but no crashes right now being reported. 95 northbound from 295 towards downtown. That's about a 12-minute ride there. That's pretty normal. If you're out towards Baker County, there is a crash here along US 90 and Possum Trot Road. Now, hearing that those westbound lanes of US 90 are blocked, so you might want to use I-10 instead. Also, a lot of fog out there this morning, especially over kind of towards the Baker County area, up towards Waycross in Georgia. So please do be careful for that fog out there as well.
It's 6:39 ahead on Good Morning Jacksonville. We continue our election coverage, of course, taking a look at what topics were most important to voters as they exited the polls.
There were 12 amendments that you voted on. Which ones passed and what does it mean for you? I'll explain coming up after the break.
Taking you beyond the ballot this morning, we're checking out exit polls with why voters in Florida and Georgia cast their ballots the way they did. Let's check out Florida first. Here, voters consider these issues to be the most important to them. You can see here 25% said health care is at the top of their list. Another 25% care mostly about immigration. 17% believe that the economy is top priority. As for gun policy, 10% rank that their top issue. Let's talk now about the economy itself. 66% of voters in this exit poll in particular say that the economy is looking pretty good. That's compared with 34% who believe it's not in such good shape. And how did President Trump factor into voters' decisions? 65% in this poll in particular said that he is the reason for their vote. On the other end of the spectrum, we have 34% that say he was not a factor at all. Turning our attention now to Georgia. These are the top issues for voters there. You have 27% that say that health care is at the top of their list. Immigration comes in at 24%. 21% of voters in Georgia say the economy is what's most important to them. And gun policy sits at just 8%. As for the country being on the right track at this point, 45% of Georgia voters say that is the case. You can see here 53% believe that the country is headed in the wrong direction. Now, Georgia voters overall appear to have a positive view of the economy. 69% said that it's in pretty good shape. Not so good, 31% of voters believe that. And the Trump factor in the state of Georgia, you have 52% say that he was the reason why they decided to get out and vote. 48% say he wasn't a factor at all.
Okay, so Amendment 4 passed. Now what? Convicted felons that have served their time will regain the right to vote automatically. Until now, there's been a process where they had to apply and could be turned down for any reason by a state board. Now, because of this, there's a backlog of ex-felons that have been waiting for years to be able to vote again. Now, some 10,000 people will become voters almost immediately. In order to vote in the next election cycle, ex-felons must have served out their sentences in full, including any parole or probation. This does not apply to murderers and sex offenders who, in most cases, lose their voting rights for good.
I'm Lindsay Boach looking at some of the other amendments that were on the ballot. All of them passed except for one. So what passed, and more importantly, what does it mean for you? Amendment 2 limits increases to assessment rates to 10% a year. It also secures an existing cap on non-homestead property assessments. All right, Amendment 9, this one had to do with offshore drilling and indoor vaping. Offshore drilling for oil and natural gas on all lands beneath state waters is banned, and also you're not allowed to use vaping devices like e-cigarettes inside. Amendment 12, that also passed. That expands restrictions on lobbying for compensation by former public officers and creates restrictions on lobbying by current public officers. Another amendment that passed, Amendment 13. Eric Alvarez explains what this means for greyhound racing.
Okay, so Amendment 13 passed. What happens now? Basically, this means the days are numbered for greyhound racing in Florida. It will become illegal to race greyhounds or any other type of dog for the purpose of gambling in the Sunshine State on January 1st, 2021. You, the voters, approved this amendment a year after a First Coast News investigation uncovered dogs tested positive for cocaine metabolites at Best Bet in Orange Park. Amendment 13 protects dogs like these, but one consequence is that thousands of greyhounds will now need to find adoptive homes as racing facilities shut their operations down.
All right, 6:46 is your time. Time for the fast lane. A Colorado man accused of killing his pregnant wife and two daughters back in August pleaded guilty to 9 counts in court yesterday. The charges against Christopher Watts include first-degree murder and tampering with a human body. Prosecutors say they will not pursue the death penalty in exchange for that plea. A sentencing date is set for November 19th.
It is never too early to quit smoking. A new study reveals former smokers reduce their risk of cardiovascular disease by 38% within 5 years of kicking the habit. But it took 60 years since quitting for their risk to return to the level of people who had never smoked at all. Facebook is opening its first ever pop-up shops, teaming up with Macy's to show off goods from 100 small businesses and online brands. Now, Facebook organized the merchants to be a part of the Markets at Macy's, which first launched earlier this year. The 9 pop-up shops are open now until February 2nd. They're in Macy's stores in several cities, including New York, Atlanta, Fort Lauderdale, San Antonio, and Las Vegas.
In case you missed it last night with all the election excitement, check it out. Alabama remains the top team in college football, according to the playoff committee. You can see the top 4 there, Notre Dame and Michigan included. Georgia and Oklahoma are the first 2 teams out. UCF, by the way, perhaps the best team in the entire state of Florida right now, ranked 12. Florida ranked 15.
Splendiferous 10 out of 10 runner index out there with a gorgeous sunrise taking place. Check it out. Nothing like a sunrise run. In fact, we'll go from splendiferous to sizzling once again today. Yeah, I'm showing a heat index. I can't believe I'm saying this. A heat index here on November 7th of 95 as we head toward 1 o'clock this afternoon. Don't expect any cooling showers or storms. That cool front too far north. This morning, big thing we're tracking, of course, the warm, humid weather. Fog thickest along I-10, especially west of Jacksonville near Lake City. Be careful. There's the sunshine this afternoon, and that's right, we tie a record high of 87. Yesterday, we broke the old record. We hit 88. As we look at tonight, great fair weather downtown, a Ferris wheel ride and some good food. Temperatures in the 70s, then fog moves in after 11 o'clock. But we do have some changes. We do have some scattered storms starting to form again Thursday afternoon after 3 o'clock and then once again on Friday, and that's a sign of fall weather fighting back. Let's take a look at Futurecast. Well, tonight we could even pop a late night storm. Tomorrow, better chance of those scattered storms. The main cold front, though, arrives Friday with an increase in some of that rain, but it will move through and we should dry out for the weekend. So as we look at the big event again today, should be dry for the fair, and then we'll have that rain Thursday, Friday. Drier weekend, that's right, low to mid 70s, finally where we should be. Now let's get to Katie Jeffries in the VyStar Credit Union Traffic Center.
Let's take a look at those roadways, getting you guys out the door this morning, taking a look towards the Fuller Warren Bridge. It looks fantastic. Whether you're traveling northbound or southbound, it is moving. Your drive times right now along 95 from 210 in St. Johns County towards downtown, about 15 to 20 minutes, but it is starting to build. It's that time of the morning where everybody's kind of heading out the door of their home. Now, there is an accident. Just be aware of this. 95 southbound just past Phillips, but all lanes there are open. It's just off to the side. No lanes of travel are impacted. I-10 congestion already building in between 295 and downtown. That's just your typical morning congestion. Taking a look here towards NAS Jacksonville, getting heavy northbound and southbound as traffic kind of makes its way towards the base, but no reported crashes on Roosevelt or along Blanding and Duval or Clay counties at this point. JTB, Beach Boulevard, and Atlantic are all still looking very nice.
Let's get a quick check of your time right now. It's 50 minutes past the hour. We have some new information this morning concerning the body camera program JSO began rolling out and will continue to over the next 2 years. On your sides, Cameron Eppinger is live right outside of JSO headquarters with a closer look at this program. Good morning, Cam.
Keitha, good morning. Sheriff Mike Williams says that he's starting the body cam program with about 250 cameras. And then ultimately over the next 2 years, everyone in uniform will be equipped with a body camera. Sheriff Mike Williams is rolling out a body cam program for his officers. The plan is to start with about 250 of them.
This is a tool that I think you will see and really believe you'll see in law enforcement for years to come.
He says everyone from sergeant on down will be equipped with the new devices, which hold about 12 to 15 hours of video.
Everybody working in patrol will be wearing a camera on the day they're working.
He's also implemented a new policy on how each camera will be used.
We've got a policy online that talks about when the camera should be on, when it should be off, when the officers have discretion to be able to turn that camera off. And there's a lot of, we looked at a lot of evidence from around the country, and we feel like we've really got a strong policy here.
He added that the ultimate goal is public trust and accountability.
At the end of the day, it's about capturing interactions, that involve officers' interaction with a citizen, providing police service, and capturing that on camera.
And the cost of the program will run taxpayers about $3 million a year. For now, reporting live right outside JSO, Cameron Eppinger, First Coast News, on your side.
6:52 is your time, and in 2 minutes, everything you need to know about the elections before you have to head off to work, plus the newest Florida man video on the internet.
Here we go. Here we go.
Right. We'll be right back. 6:54 is your time now. Here's your GMJ on the go. 11 out of 12 amendments on the Florida ballot passed yesterday's elections. A full breakdown of what they mean, each of the amendments, and there's a lot of worriedness to those. It's on our website right now, firstcoastnews.com.
Moving from Tallahassee to D.C., Rick Scott is the Senate-elect for Florida. His opponent, Bill Nelson, is expected to speak to his supporters today. Scott declaring himself the winner while speaking in front of supporters late last night. This is the first time Florida will have 2 Republican senators since 1875. Yes, that's 143 years. Wow. All right, here in Florida, Democratic nominee Andrew Gillum conceded to Republican nominee Ron DeSantis, now governor-elect.
In Georgia, both Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp have addressed their supporters overnight, but the race has not officially been called. Abrams not conceding, even though considering Kemp is in the lead by some 3 percentage points right now.
With the races across the country, Republicans expanded their majority in the Senate to keep control there. However, Democrats needed a net gain of 23 House seats to take control, and they did.
In case you thought the election was over, it's not. For Jacksonville city elections, by the way, in March. Something to look forward to. Of course, we'll have you covered both on air and online. All right, last check of our forecast before we go.
That's right. Let's take a look. We're talking about our hour by hour with a lot of sizzle in the forecast. Temperatures back into the middle to upper 80s. Looking for fall weather? Look no further than this weekend with highs back in the 70s. Katie?
Looking towards your roadways, I-10 there, looks like you got a broken down car, not too far kind of from where it meets 295, but picking up on that eastbound side, that's to be expected. And prepare yourself, get used to having maybe a little bit of a sun delay. Now that the time has changed, you're kind of driving, right into the rising sun. So make sure you bring your sunglasses with you out there if you're traveling eastbound.
So have you seen this viral video as yet? We're calling this a Florida man story of the day. A man breaks into the alligator farm in St. Augustine and jumps into the crocodile exhibit. Yup, Brandon Hartfield was bit multiple times as expected. Smart guy.
Add insult to injury to this whole thing. He got arrested, charged with burglary, criminal mischief, and violation of probation. So there's that. Also, bitten by an alligator, etc. Currently being treated at Flagler Hospital. Going to be taken to jail once he's medically cleared.
Don't you want to know what he was on probation for in the first place? I'm so curious to know. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
So curious.
I have like an idea maybe, but I'm just going to keep that in mind.
Whatever.
Noggin.
Oh dear.
But interesting.
Florida man. Fun time.
Right
Only in Florida. That's our state.
Did he think he was getting into a pool, just cool off? It's been hot, Mike. Have a great day, everybody.